Good morning, welcome back to the channel. If you guys like free money, stay tuned. I have a big announcement. So we just had the Boston Apparel drop. We tried something new with the site. Nobody liked it. To be honest, I didn't really like it. It's very, very hard to navigate. We have since changed the site back. You can actually tell what we have in stock, what is sold out. And for the next 24 hours, starting right this second, right when you're watching this video, all the way up until tomorrow at the same time, 24 hours, every single order placed is getting money. We have a few $1,000s in this box right here. So anything from a 1, 5, 10, 20, 50, or $100 bill will be placed in every single order. Head over to the Boston store, first link down in the description box below. See what we still have in stock. You will win some money. It could be a lot. It could be more than you paid for your order. It's a good deal. Okay, let's go build the engine. What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. Today is the day we are building the 4B11 for the Evo 10. This guy right here, hopefully by the end of the day, is a complete, ready to drop in long block. We got a ways to go. Without further ado, let's get started. First thing that we need to do is set the ring end gap. Also, I'm not gonna be super technical in this video. I've made like an hour-long video before on how to build a 4B11. So I'm gonna go ahead and link that down in the description box below or up in the top right corner. If you guys wanna see like an in-depth video on how to build one of these things, like all the torque specs, every single aspect of building a 4B11. Pretty sure I made that video. No, I did a 4G. I think I did a 4B. I had to have. We are running some Trom Exigent Solutions pistons. Let's get these things out of the box and let me show you guys what we got going on. Ooh boy. Ceramic coated, beefy ass wrist pins. You can see up top here, Exigent Solutions, ES 4B11, blah, blah, blah. It's got the part number on there. Made in the USA, I believe. Yes, indeed. Made in the USA. 9.0 to 1 compression ratio, 86.25 mil. That's about all we need to know. So pistons look freaking beautiful. In this baggie right here are all of the wrist pin circlips and then also the rings. You need to go ahead and set the ring end gap like I said. It says right here on the blueprint sheet, set ring end gaps to 0.018 inches on top and second rings. Second ring may already be bigger than 0.018. This is also acceptable. Oil ring gap should be at 0.015 at minimum. Setting the ring end gap is pretty easy. So we have the 018 feeler gauge here. And as you can see, it does not fit in the gap of the ring, okay? So now we need to pull the ring out and file it. Okay, so we have all of the ring end gaps set. All we had to do was file the top ring. All 4 second rings were already at just a touch over 0.18. And then the oil ring end gap, it says a minimum of 0.15, and they were honestly quite a bit looser than that. So yeah, we should be good to go. From here, I'm gonna go ahead and get the pistons installed onto the rods, and then we can get the rings on the pistons and get the piston and rod assembly in the block. Rods are numbered 1 through 4. Let's run through and get some rods on some pistons. The first thing I'm gonna do in this process is go ahead and get our circlips out, and I'm gonna install a circlip into the piston. She goes right down in that groove right there. Make sure she's clipped in and seated all the way. So here's rod number 1. As you can see, it's labeled right there. It's etched in. That is something that Exigent Solutions did. Here's our wrist pin, big old thick boy. And being the weekend, this is the only assembly lube I could find. I've never used this kind before. Let's see how we like it. Rods seem a little bit dirty. I need to get everything cleaned up. All right, piston number 1 and rod number 1 are assembled. I'm gonna go ahead and get all of the pistons hung on the rods, and then we can run through and get the rings installed. All of the rings are installed. This is the ring end gap placement little chart that I always use. So shows you where each 5 ring end gaps go. These guys are ready to be dropped down into the block. Now, of course, they have to go a certain way. Pistons are marked. You see that right there? Top corner, it says in. That goes toward the intake manifold, which on a 4B11 is toward the front of the car. On a 4G, it's the back. So let's just point them toward the starter hole right there. Lubricant. I swear every time I say this, it sounds funny and I feel like I get some feedback. I use WD-40 and I always have. I built plenty of motors and you know, I don't know who taught me this. Somebody taught me this way back in the day. Probably was my dad, to be honest. But WD-40 lube on the cylinder walls seems to break in the rings just fine, and I've never once had an issue. So I'm sure there's other ways to do it. I don't really know. This is what I know, and this is what I do. Also, I do not like using this. This is a universal ring compressor. I much rather prefer something like this, but as you can see, this is 86.5. I have an 86, 86.5, and 87 mil. I do not have any 86.25 mils, so the universal guy is gonna have to work today. 1 through 4, let's get them knocked out. Of course, we do have to pop off the rod cap with the rod bolts. Make sure the rod cap goes back on the proper rod. They're all labeled. Bearing tang goes to the bearing tang. You already know the drill. Let's get these things knocked out. All right, we got the pistons in. Look how freaking beautiful those bronze Cerakoted tops look. This thing is absolutely ridiculous. I could not get it to work, so I decided to give the 86.5 mil a shot, and she did indeed work. Took a little bit of finagling, but we got them all locked and loaded. Let's get this thing flipped around. We need to go ahead and get the rod bearings in, rod caps on, of course using assembly lube, not on the back side of the bearings. If you know, you know. If you don't, you must be new here. All the caps are on. I did have to tweak the oil squirters a little bit. They weren't hitting the pistons. They were so dang close though. So I just reached down in there with the flathead like you guys saw and tweaked them just a little bit, just to make sure that when we go to fire this thing up, we don't hear a tick, 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 tick. Let's go through, torque down the rod cap bolt. Rods torque to 25 foot-pounds plus 55 degrees. This ends up being about 65 pounds. On the phone, they said the mains were already torqued, but I'm gonna go ahead and double check that they are torqued. Everything is completely torqued down. Double check the mains, those were already torqued. It is time to go ahead and get the girdle onto the block. So we gotta clean this gasket surface here. And I need to find out where I put the girdle. I'm pretty sure it's in storage. So we got what I call the engine girdle installed. You can see a nice even amount of sealant, a little bit thick right there, but that's what you want to see. Just a nice even tiny squeeze on the whole edge. I know some people lay just a little bead down. I like to spread it out with my fingers. I'm gonna go ahead and slap the head on. Really excited to get the head on. Unfortunately, I am running out of time. I'm running a little bit behind right now. So we're not gonna get like the timing components or the oil pan on, but a couple of minutes tomorrow morning, we should be able to get that knocked out. So let's go ahead, get the gasket surface cleaned up on the block and the head, and then pull out the head gasket, get the ARP studs in. These studs only go hand tight. These are ARP 2000s, which will be plenty for this build. But yeah, they only go hand tight into the block. And then we got to figure out the torque spec on nuts. I forget what it was. I think it's like a final torque of about 90 foot-pounds. All right, let's go and get this guy torqued down. 30, 60, 90 foot-pounds. So 3 equal steps all the way up to 90 foot-pounds. These 2 front ones, pain in the ass to get to. You have to use a ground down 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter, 3/8 drive, 12-point socket. The rest, you can use just a regular old 1/2 inch drive socket. So, and remember, gotta knock this out in a crisscross pattern to get equal pressure, equal clamping force on the whole head. Well, not bad for a nice chill Sunday in the shop. Got pretty much the long block complete. We still have timing components, oil pan, oil pump, and valve cover. And that's pretty much it. I love building these things. This is probably, I would say, the 6th, 7th 4B I've built. So they're getting fun. Well, boys, gonna wrap it up here. All the parts that we are installing on this build, I'll link down below. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace out. I'll see you guys tomorrow.